Hi, I'm the PC Expert Amateur, and this time we're going to be looking at Bitphoenix Spectre Pro LED, or more specifically, BFF-L Pro 225, that's 20025B-RP. Here it is. And you can tell that it's blue with blue LEDs. All right, let's pop it out of its containment. We gotta set the Phoenix free. Comes with screws and radiator screws and a 2-pin. Well, it's a 4-pin housing with 2 pins to a 2-pin Molex D. It also has a special 72 centimeter extension cable for the LED lights, specifically because you have 3 options for the lighting. You can leave it like this, and then all the power will go through this and power both the fan and the lights. Or you can pull this. I don't know if you can see that very well. You can pull this off, at which point the LED lights aren't going to work because this disconnects the power to the lights, which is great for me. But if you want those blue lights to be on, the third option is to pull that and then use this extension and run it to a 2-pin fan LED connection on your motherboard, which presumably would be in the same area as the on button and the power LED and other stuff in that little cluster, in that usually in the bottom right hand corner on most motherboards. But let's take a closer look at this. It does have some interesting protrusions on both sides of the blade. So what you see there is not on one side, it's protruding on both sides. No indentation. So that's interesting. No notches or teeth, as some people like to call them. And one thing that's really interesting about this is there's a whole lot of holes at the 4 corners. And this is particularly interesting because if you notice, that means there's a whole lot of options for mounting. Now, the only mounting options I personally was paying attention to were these outer 3 here. But if you have the right screws, I suppose it's theoretically possible. Now, these inner 4 fan holes do not appear to have a liner like these. Well, around at the outer edge, you can see there's that blackness there on the top 3, but not on the bottom 4. So I'm not entirely sure whether all 7 are functional or if only the black ones are functional. But at the very least, you have 3 mounting distances, which I will explain in the specification section. Let's go ahead and try this out. Now, I will not be plugging the LEDs directly into my motherboard. I just wanted to explain that possibility to you. Ow. And it is kind of mildly interesting to look at an angle because you can see those protrusions forming circles. Kind of cool. So now we can get rid of the lights just like that, which makes me happy if I had a case for this, which I could probably, use cable ties or twist ties or something and connect this to a mesh case that has large enough holes. It's kind of a noisy fan. And I can hear rubbing. So that's never a good sign. gets worse when I put it up above, and better when I put it blowing downwards. So that's interesting. So if it's facing upwards or it's vertical, it makes rubbing noises. Interesting. Sounds like a defect to me. Well, now with it on an angle, it's even more pronounced. It's definitely not good. But I guess I should not be surprised. Well, but I am, though, because this is a fluid dynamic bearing. So obviously it's not a good quality one. Now, what could we use this for? Well, not for a radiator. Theoretically, if you had a really, really, really big air cooler, you could use this on that. It would be sufficiently powerful between the airflow and the air pressure. But, generally this would be good for intake and exhaust on a case. And this is part of a series that they did where they have this nice look. And they're really kind of expensive, actually. I was looking at getting one, and I was like, man, for that? It's nice to have the extra holes so that you have more options as far as how you can get something mounted. But I don't think extra holes justifies that much larger of a cost, especially with a noisy bearing. But, maybe I got a defective one. Maybe somebody else's is going to work fine. Mine is an older one, admittedly. But, this is a product that was produced in 2011. So, that's really old. But this is the second time this is the first time I've powered it up. Today is the first time, because the box was still sealed when I grabbed it. I had forgotten to check it to see if it actually worked, which is never a good thing when you have fans or any other products for a computer come in. If you are in a position where you feel like, well, I better buy when the deals are on, you could be in trouble because you may get something early on, and then when you finally have the parts to test it, you will discover that, it's broken, and oops, it's past the return period, so I can't get my money back, and that's not good. So yeah, just be cognizant of that. So let's take a look at the specs. I feel a little bit silly because when I reviewed the other two Bitphoenix, I pronounced it Bitphoenix or something like that. I guess, I wasn't paying attention to the logo looking like a phoenix rising from the ashes. So it's Bitphoenix. I just, Ooh, excuse me. So the Spectra Pro LED BFF-L Pro-20025B-RP. And it has a couple of important notes about this. It has the removable LED short so that you can turn off the LEDs. It has the 72 centimeter LED motherboard fan LED 2-pin cable. It also has I think that the MolXD thing is the low speed 7-volt adapter that's listed on there, but I'm not entirely sure about that one. It's a little bit uncertain to me. So it's about a $25 fan. It's certified for CE, made in China, 200 by 25 versus the 30 of the Thermaltake and the 20 of the AeroCool. So theoretically, what we should see is slightly less powerful than the Thermaltake, and in the middle, really ideally, and then slightly more powerful than the AeroCool. But it also depends on the RPMs and the fans, the blade design, and the bearings. It's never quite that simple. No information on the MTBF or the warranty, which is a bad sign, especially for a fan where you pay $25. It's got 4 blue LEDs. It weighs 260 grams, so it's lighter than the Thermal Take. 9 blades versus the 11 on the other two, so that could have an impact. And the 3 mounting holes that I did measure were 120, 153, and 182 millimeters. The maximum RPMs are 900 plus or minus 10%. 148.72 CFMs. Interesting. So only 100 RPMs faster, but it's almost 20 CFMs faster than better airflow than the CFMs of the Thermal Take, and double that of the AeroCool. So that's interesting. So clearly there's something about the design otherwise, such as the bearings, that is providing that extra push. Also, it's got better static pressure at 1.26 millimeters of water versus the 0.996 of the Thermal Take and 0.36 of the AeroCool. And it's slightly less noisy than the Thermal Take at 27.5 versus 28.2, and then the 18 of the AeroCool. And yeah, I guess so, but then there's also that weird noise that we shouldn't be hearing with the bearings or whatever it is that's rubbing. The cable is much shorter at 22 centimeters. No daisy chaining or sleeving. 3-pin DC connector, and it's an FDB it's FDB fluid dynamic bearing. 12 volts with a starting volt of 5. So that's nicer than the other two at 9. 3.96 watts, which is a lot. I mean, tell me I'm wrong, but it seems like an awful lot. 0.33 watts. But if you compare it to the AeroCool is consuming 3 watts and 0.25 amps. So it's really not that bad considering it's so much more powerful. I mean, you look at the AeroCool, then you're like, why would I want to buy the AeroCool? It's wimpy and it's power consumptive. Okay, it's not as noisy, but so what? It's not a performant fan. It's essentially, kind of useless in comparison. There are no indicators of flow and rotation. Comes with 4 screws, 4 rad screws. The LED mode switch or control, such as it is. I mean, it's really a control where you can, disable the lights. It also comes with that LED cable that's an extension, so you can directly power. And this is actually a really good idea, because this essentially means that this fan is either a pure a fan that can either have all the power going to the fan and the lights, or separate power like an RGB fan for the fan and separate power for the lights. So this is an interesting feature, I have to admit, and it's so easy to implement. And then finally, the Molex connection. That's supposedly a what do you call it? How did they describe it? Oh yeah, low speed 7-volt adapter. So low speed does equate to low volume. So you could say it's an LNA. I mean, so I technically, I suppose I should probably mark this as a yes, because reducing speed is how they reduce noise. In the vast majority of cases, that's what the LNA is doing. And that's all there is, aside from the very interesting multiple sets of mounting holes. Thanks. I'd like to thank Grindler at Bleeping Computer for allowing me to share my videos and posts on his website. Bleeping Computer has a lot of resources, including vetted programs, malware removal instructions, malware removal volunteers, other kinds of volunteers for IT, cybersecurity information, and more. It's a great place to go. Give it a try. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great day.